Welcome to East Coast Averages, the podcast that brings you stories from everyday people from all around the world. Recorded on the east coast of Australia, I'm your host Nick, and each week we'll sit down with average people who have unique stories to tell. Let's peek over the back fence and see what's happening in other people's lives. I never know what I'm going to discover until I sit down and start chatting to them. All right, today's guest on East Coast Averages is the mother of Izzy, who was episode 17. If you go back into the back catalogue, you'll find episode 17. It's Izzy, who was an 18-year-old who spoke about her battle with leukemia. Now, after the episode was published, I had a phone call from her mum, Niki, who's our guest today, and she just wanted to add a few things to it to look at it from a different perspective. So welcome to the show, Niki. How are you?
Good, thank you, Nick.
I'll be honest with you. I wanted to get a father's perspective on the treatment of a sick child, because I personally think if you said to everyone in society, how do you think a mother would react to a child being diagnosed with cancer, I think most people would come up with the correct answer of how a mother's would respond to that. But fathers respond differently, hey? Yes. So I did ask Izzy's dad to come on, but he wasn't interested in coming on the podcast, which is fair enough. Not everyone wants to come on a podcast that gets published on the internet that gets listened to all around the world. So I fully understand why he didn't want to come on and talk about it. So won't say it's the second best thing, but we're going with the mother's thing. Because what do you reckon, Nick? Do you think if you were in the ward with Izzy for so long, did you find that most mothers' responses were similar to yours, where fathers were completely different across the board?
Yes and no. So obviously, because of Isabel's age and what she wanted and her needs, it was more appropriate that I was there. So, but there was also a lot of fathers that were in there that had younger children. So it wasn't...
Oh, so it had more to do with Izzy being a 12-year-old girl more so than being...
needing her personal care attended to.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Wayne was there all the time.
Oh, yeah, I don't doubt that fathers were there all the time. I just think emotionally men and fathers process shit differently.
100%.
So I was sort of hoping to get like a male point of view. But anyway, like I said, not everyone wants to come on a podcast that's going to get published. So I thought you'd come on because Izzy said a couple of things about like when she went to the... Anyway, we'll get to that. So let's go to the start of the story to get mum's point of view.
Okay.
Izzy was sick. She walked up the stairs and vomited that day and had a bit of a collapse. So you took her to the doctor?
Yeah, so it was a bit more than that. So I think Izzy explained it well when she was talking. She kept talking about trauma block, which I think she has done, and that's the way that she has coped with this. So she had started high school. Year 7 girls are absolute nightmares. So we had this new school and there were limited friends, and then there was a little bit of bitchiness and stuff, and she was not wanting to go to school and she was tired. And so I said to her, do you need to go to the doctor?
Yeah.
She thought she might have had a bit of anxiety, and I said, okay, we'll go to the doctor. So we took her to the doctor. It was a brand new doctor. It was the first time we'd seen this doctor because our previous family doctor had just retired. So we went down the mental health road, get her in to see a counsellor or something, and he just wanted to rule out all the physical stuff first, which was really good.
Yeah, they do that a lot with mental health. They rule out any organic causes of the anxiety or whatever.
Which is what he did, which was, thank God he did that. So
it was sort of by mistake that you found it. Yeah, that's a bit of a shit. So if you hadn't gone to the doctor, she might have got worse and then got to the point where she couldn't recover from the immune system being low, or do you think it would have come up eventually, I suppose?
I think it probably would have. Within 3 days, we would have been in a hospital anyway.
Yeah.
So her blasts were so high, she had 0 neutrophils.
Which is?
So you need your neutrophils to fight off all of your infections.
Okay, so we're not expert doctors, but neutrophils are important.
Very important.
In your blood.
Yes.
So you don't get sick and die.
Yes.
Yep.
And I think her blasts are about 95%. So she had the blood. We went to the doctor on the Friday. We had the blood test done on the Saturday morning. We went to Newcastle Saturday lunchtime, went to my sister's baby shower. Then we went to my mother's house for dinner because it was Mother's Day the next day. And our doctor, when he did her blood pressure on the Friday, knew that there was something because it was her sitting blood pressure and her standing blood pressure. That was completely different. So he knew that we were having the blood test on the Saturday, and so he was ringing up the hematologist all day Saturday.
Oh, so he had a suspicion that something was going on.
Something major was happening.
He's obviously seen something in Izzy's presentation. Didn't want to say anything to you,
nope.
But was a good doctor and thought, I'm going to chase this up. So I actually was probably went home that night and thought, I really need to check on, I don't know, they probably put notes in the book.
Yeah.
Please check on Izzy, make sure those bloods are all right.
So he was actually at a barbecue at a friend's house when he made the phone call that got the results. And so he had been trying to ring us while we were at dinner, so Wayne had missed calls. And then when he finally answered it.
Yep.
And he
so that's pretty good of the doctor, eh?
Amazing doctor. Yeah. And we still go to that doctor today and cannot thank him enough.
Yeah. So when you got that phone call, you're at a family barbecue.
No, we just finished dinner. We're at my mother's house.
Does Wayne, can we mention hubby's name?
Yeah, of course we can.
Wayne. So
I think we did in Izzy's.
Yeah, I think he doesn't look at his phone because I would know if there was heaps of missed calls, eh?
So I think because we were out for tea.
Yeah.
And it was no caller ID.
Oh, yeah, so you just sort of think,
so no one answers it. But because
it's a scammer for sure.
Yeah, because there had been a couple of no caller IDs, he thought, shit, I better answer that.
Yeah, it might be something
So
important.
he did. So he answered it, and then he went from my mother's kitchen into the front lounge room. Yep. And then he called me in and then told me, and I just...
What did he... Can I ask what he said? Like, what did the doctor say to Wayne?
So I don't know the exact words that he said to Wayne, but in a nutshell, we had to get her to a hospital immediately. It looked as though she had leukemia. And
so he mentioned leukemia right then?
Yep.
Because Izzy said she didn't really know for 3 days.
No, Izzy didn't, and that was on purpose.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we knew that there was something wrong with the blood. More than likely it was leukemia. And Wayne and I made the decision from the very beginning that we were not going to tell her what it was until the doctors could tell her 100% what it was, because we knew that she would ask questions.
Yep.
And
and get on Google, so they're all attached to their phones these days. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty shitty moment, was it?
It was very shit. It was the worst thing ever that you could experience, I think.
Did you start crying straight away? Or?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely lost it. Isabel came in.
Did Wayne tell you to fucking pull yourself together for Izzy, or he was losing it as well?
No, he was emotional.
Yeah.
She came into the lounge room, and one of my other younger sisters was there, and I looked and I said, "Get her out of the room now," which made Isabel.
Oh yeah, if I said that with my daughter walking in the room, she'd fucking just lose the plot.
That was just because I didn't need her to see me an absolute mess. So I needed to control myself and get everything organised. And then when I went in to Isabel to speak to her, she was in the toilet on the floor crying, saying, "What is wrong with me? What is wrong with me?"
Yep.
Yeah, so they're the things that she's
blocked out.
Blocked out
you
completely.
think she'll be happy? She'll be all right listening to this?
Yeah, so I spoke to her after we listened to it, and I said how amazing it was that she spoke.
Yeah, look, I've had heaps of feedback saying that people really enjoyed that episode. It's a long episode, and I really appreciate people putting in the effort to listen to it, because it takes a lot of effort to listen to podcasts.
Yep.
Especially you're putting our episode out there, and obviously everyone who I've spoken to and I've had feedback from that episode that said that they were impressed by Izzy and what she went through on that.
Yeah, so there was a few things that I said to her, wow, you did trauma block and you have trauma blocked. There was a couple of things that she said about me crying, and I said to her, sweetheart, you only saw me cry once. And that was the very first day. All the other crying I did was at 5:30 in the morning when she was asleep, and I would go outside and have my coffee.
Yeah.
Hate the world, get my shit together, go back inside.
Yeah, because that's something I asked Izzy, like, what was it like? And we're sort of getting a bit of ahead, but what was it like at night when everyone's asleep, you're staring at the roof, you can hear the clock ticking, and it's just you and your thoughts. And I thought, I'm going to ask his mum that, because because every single person on this planet has at some point been laying in bed, staring at the roof, listening to the clock tick or something, and thinking about either good, bad, indifferent, ugly, happy, sad issues. And Yeah, so that I was going to ask you that question. I was going to ask it later, but let's get to it now. Then. Let's do it now.
There was obviously lots of nights where I would just be laying there because I would be listening to her machines click over. You would hear the buzzers outside. I would be listening to her breathe and, wondering what the heck is going to happen. See that? I try not to swear then.
You can swear if you like.
But the way that I coped with it in order for me, so Izzy slept quite well. She was an absolute warrior through the entire thing. For me, I would put white tiger balm underneath my eyes, which would force my eyes closed, and that was the only way I could sleep. And I continued that up until about 12 months ago.
Did it make you go to sleep?
I had to force my ey's shut.
Well, we don't endorse the placing of tiger balm under anyone's eyes.
But it was white
sleep.
tiger balm.
If you're having trouble sleeping, go and see your GP and get something like that, not tiger balm. So what were your thoughts when you're looking at your did you become religious?
No.
Were you like, come on, God, you know what I mean?
No,
like, what were you thinking? Were you thinking, what am I going to do if she doesn't make it? Please help anyone out there in the universe. You know what I mean? Like,
no, I had full faith in her doctors, her team. I did not turn to religion. Unfortunately, the chapel was directly opposite Camperdown Ward, so you would have to walk past that. And every time I would walk past that, I would just cringe.
Why is that? Well, it's not for everybody.
No, it's not. And I was raised a Catholic, and I believe that there is something, but I think, as most people do, if there was a higher power, then why is that happening to my child?
Yeah, that's always a tough one, eh?
Yep.
So anyway, we've got a bit ahead of ourselves. So let's go back to your mum's place.
Yes.
Had a barbecue. You've just received the shittiest news that a parent can get. You've just joined a club that no parent wants to be in.
Never.
Which is a shit club to be in, and one I hope I'm never in. And so you've said to Izzy, we need to take you to the hospital, and she's freaked out.
Yeah, so she was like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? And I said, sweetheart, we don't know. There was something in your blood and we need to go to the hospital. We've got to go to the hospital now.
To get that worked out.
Yep. So I'm just going to position myself.
That's right, I can edit that.
Edit that bit out.
I can edit that bit out. Something you bumped the microphone. No, we won't go there. But anyway.
It's my teeth. So
she's got big teeth.
At my mother's house, there was my mother, Wayne, myself, Isabel, my one of my younger sisters, Catherine, and her partner, Michael. I come from a big family, and it was like, well, okay, we're going to take her to the hospital. So Mum come with us.
And they're all saying, what the fuck's going on? What's going on?
Yes.
But you can't say it in front of Izzy.
No, we couldn't.
And you're saying, just fucking calm down, people.
Yes.
Just chill. I will fucking ring you when we get to the hospital.
Yes. But
they know it's bad because you're bawling your eyes out.
Yep, they know it's bad.
Wayne's pale and Izzy's fucking freaking out.
Yep, so we're driving to the John Hunter in Newcastle, and we're driving from Raymond Terrace. I hate that road trip now.
How long does that take?
Probably took about 35 minutes.
And what was the thoughts in the car? Was it quiet? Was it like quiet? Was everyone staring out the window thinking about quiet contemplation about, oh, fuck, here we go? Or were we discussing anything? Is he asking any questions, or you don't really remember?
No, I don't even remember. I just remember the thinking, fuck, we need to get to the hospital.
Did the doctor say call an ambulance if you can't get there, if you'd been drinking or something?
No, so he wanted us to, obviously he said just get to the hospital straight away. She's got to go. That, when a doctor says you must get to a hospital now.
Yeah, most people listen to that, yeah.
And it's like, oh, fuck, it's bad.
Yep.
So then we get to the John Hunter. And of course, my Catherine, my sister, she also came.
Yep.
So in the waiting room at the John Hunter, there is my mother, there's Wayne, there's Isabel, there's me, there's my sister Catherine, then there's my sister, her partner Michael. They had also rung my other sister, and she happened to be up in Newcastle at the time.
So she came to the hospital as well?
So she then came to the hospital as well with her husband.
Yep.
So there was quite a large family. We were out the back. Izzy had to have more blood tests done.
So you went to triage?
Yeah.
And told them what the doctor had said?
Yes.
Did you mention leukemia?
No. So we just mentioned so that they could access her tests online. She had to have more blood tests done. She had scans done.
Took her straight in?
Straight in. We went straight in. And I remember when this beautiful intern doctor came out and she said that it was leukemia, and she was only a young little thing, and she had tears in her eyes, and she was so apologetic.
Yeah. That's pretty sad, eh?
Yes. And I remember I said, it's okay. But
I start crying, Niki. I'll start crying. Now we're all crying.
So I was comforting her when in actual fact, when I look back on that now, it's like, fuck.
Yeah, you're saying
I was constantly being a care. I was being the mum. The mum.
Yeah. So this young doctor had obviously looked at the family, the extended family, and Izzy and thought, what a fuck thing to happen.
Absolutely. And then, of course, we rang my son, and he lives in Sydney, and we said, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
We're going to be here overnight. There's no point coming down. And no, he drove.
He drove
from
up there?
Sydney.
Yeah.
So he was there as well.
Yep.
And then we had to leave her in the hospital that night. Wayne stayed with her that very first night, and I went with Sean and
back to your mum's?
No, so Mum went back home. I went to my girlfriend who lived in Newcastle.
Oh, because it's 35 minutes. You didn't want to drive that far away. Yeah, fair enough.
Yep. And I remember we were taking Izzy to the ward, and I'm passing the signs. Oh, and my girlfriend turned up at the hospital as well. Passing the signs, and I'm looking at the word oncology, and I'm thinking, fuck,
this is not happening, man.
I didn't want her to read it.
Yep.
I didn't want her to see that. I didn't want her to comprehend I'm going into an oncology
ward.
And she's a bright kid.
Yep. Well, from speaking to her on the podcast, she said she didn't notice, but you reckon she's blocking that a bit? She might not have noticed,
I don't think she did on that very, very first day.
Was she there when the young intern said, I think it's leukemia?
No.
Oh, she called you away from, yeah. And look, I guess that's a bit of insight being a doctor is they don't want to say it in front of the young kid because it's up to the parents to decide how you're going to break the news to their child, I suppose.
And she'd only just turned 12. So this was Mother's Day of 2018. She turned 12 December of 2017. So she was still a baby.
So you didn't see that intern again?
No. And that was probably the biggest thing she'd had to do to that day in her career, which I could tell with her.
Yeah. So that's pretty shit, I know. So you head up to the ward.
Head up to the ward.
The whole family gets told to go home.
Yeah, get home.
Because you can't all
get
come
lost.
up. What time of night was this by the time you're heading up to the ward?
Oh, God. Would have been well after 11.
Yep. So Wayne staying the night?
Wayne stayed the night. They had this beautiful room at the John Hunter.
Yep.
I went back to my girlfriend's house, and my girlfriend had just come back from a holiday in Bali, and she had bought me this. It's a Balinese prayer thing, and you write something on a piece of paper, you put it inside it and seal it, and you never touch it again.
Yep.
And if you open it up, it will never happen.
Bad juju.
So Wayne still wears that around his neck today. He has no idea what I wrote on it.
Okay, and he's never going to find out.
No, and he'll never find out.
And you're not saying it on the potty either, are you?
Nope, and it's never been opened.
I think most people could imagine the sort of thing a mum would write on after that news, and we'll just leave it at that, I suppose. So the next day, did you get much sleep that night?
No.
Cried all night?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I did.
Did you Google leukemia?
Well, yes, I did. But because we didn't know what type it was.
Yeah.
So that's the unanswered
questions. I remember when we found out, like Max said something, I looked on the internet and I remember saying to Kez, I said, there's two types. One's easy to cure in kids.
One's not.
One's not. One's easy to cure in adults, one's not, and they're opposite.
Yes.
Which is really weird. But I remember saying to Kez, I said, if she's got this one, she's good. That's the
best one to have.
Yeah. But if she doesn't, then she's got a fight ahead of her.
Yep.
Yeah, and she had the shitty one.
She had the fight.
Yeah, that's what and when you said when you did say to her, I said to my wife, fuck, she's got the one which is difficult to, the shitty one. So so good news all around, mate. Coming straight at you.
If you're going to get that.
Fucking good news all around.
Good one, Stink.
Yeah, that's all you want here. Oh, your kid's got leukemia. There's two types. One's fucking curable. Couple of
One's
weeks.
a bit harder to do.
The other one, well, we're not really sure about. You've got the one we're not sure about.
Yeah.
So you're in John Hunter.
Yeah, so the next day...
Did you ask to be sent to the kids' hospital? Like if you lived in Newcastle...
We could have stayed at the John Hunter.
Yeah, they would have done all the treatment at John Hunter.
Everything would have been done there, but obviously because...
And to anyone listening overseas, John Hunter Hospital is about 3 hours north of Sydney. So, and Nikki and Wayne obviously live on the east coast of Australia, but are closer to the Sydney Children's
Yes.
Hospital. But they would have been quite happy to keep you up. And
Yes.
the Newcastle Hospital was able to do the same treatment.
Yes, and the only reason, obviously, that we opted was because we live here.
Yeah.
We had support up there, family-wise, but we also had support here,
Yeah.
family and friends, which obviously you need that. Plus our work.
Yeah.
And, I mean, even though we weren't thinking
That's
about work.
That's a whole. Like I said to Izzy in the in her episode, that's a whole thing you don't consider because
No, you don't.
you've got a young child in hospital that you need to stay with, and the whole world's going to shit.
Mm-hmm.
You've still got to fucking make your mortgage payment
100%.
next fortnight.
Yep.
The bank will say, "Oh, we'll just charge you interest for 6 months," but that interest is just fucking building up, building up. You go to your employer and say, "Oh, my child's got fucking cancer," and every employer is going to say, "Okay, well, do what you need to do," but at some point,
You've still got to go to work.
you've still got to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
You run out of the mandatory sick leave and fax leave and shit that we have in Australia. I don't know what other countries have, but we have quite a good like leave policy for family leave, but that's not infinite. It runs out. So,
But the bills don't.
yeah.
And I actually, talking about work and stuff, I actually had work commitments the following week where I was supposed to go away. And so I had to ring my boss to say to him, I can't go. You're going to have to arrange something else. So it was Mother's Day when I made that phone call to him early in the morning. And I didn't sugarcoat it with him.
Yep.
And that affected him as well.
Yeah. Look, it affects everybody that comes across this kind of. You just look. It might affect people listening to the podcast. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, call Lifeline if you're affected by it.
What's the number?
I don't know the number. I'll look it up and put it on.
Or be on blue.
Or be on blue.
Or black dog.
Or reach out to your friends, your GP, anyone. If you're feeling, if this podcast is bringing up some shitty memories, then yeah.
Or if I start crying.
Because it's not, look, the East Coast average is supposed to be a lighthearted look at life, but this is certainly not a lighthearted look. But you know what? This is happening to average people all across the country every day of the week.
Doesn't discriminate.
No. And look, my dad passed away from asbestos cancer, and he said his biggest thing he noticed was when he went to the oncology ward to get his treatment, he said everyone was there. Italians, Middle Eastern, European, Chinese, Aboriginal, white people, black people.
Yep. Rich people,
poor people. He said there is no discrimination when it comes to cancer and the treatment. He said everyone was there. All races were in, and he said that's what he found quite not confronting, but he just thought, fuck, this is just something that just affects everybody.
And the good thing about Australia is our healthcare system. Regardless of where you come from or the colour of your skin. You
get the same treatment.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, it's good to know that you could get the same treatment in Newcastle too, being 3 hours from Sydney. Yep. But anyway, we got sidetracked again, so we'll get back to...
Come back again.
They've come into the ward at Newcastle and said, look, we know you live in Sydney.
Yep.
We can transfer Izzy down to Westmead Children's Hospital or you can stay here and have your treatment.
Yep. So we opted to go. They said we could either drive her or they would convey her by ambulance. They couldn't give us a time of what time the ambulance was going to be there. And control freak mum was like, no, we are driving her. We're leaving now.
There was no risk of her having an adverse event on that drive?
No, we just had to make sure because of her neutrophils.
She stayed in the car.
We didn't sidetrack. We didn't do anything. And, of course, and not knowing to – and I drove as well because if I didn't drive, I knew I would be Googling.
Yeah.
So I made sure that I did. And so I
can't Google in a car, I'll be vomiting.
Yes.
About 2 seconds. First page loaded, I'm starting to feel nauseated. But anyway.
You could have had a vomit bag. You'd be fine, Nick.
No, I can't.
So then we get to Westmead Children's Hospital, and I remember them saying to me at the John Hunter, make sure you do not sit in emergency. She's got to go straight through. And I was trying to express this to them.
To the triage nurse.
And they knew that, right? They do this every day.
Yeah.
But to me, it was the first time ever.
Yeah.
So I was quite...
trying to get across. We need to get out of it. You're looking at all these people coughing and spluttering vomit bags thinking, I need to get out of this fucking room, man.
Yep. So then we go in there. We were in a isolation room. Obviously they came, they did more blood tests like the poor kid.
Yep. And how was she feeling at this point? Was she really unwell or just tired? Or
She was very, very tired. and confused. And we just said to her, we don't know, sweetheart. They've got to do some more tests. And once we know, we will tell you. And in between all of this, obviously, Wayne and I are having discussions, and we both agreed that we weren't going to tell her. We knew it was cancer, but we weren't telling her. And some parents might find that weird, but we knew her, and we knew that she would ask a million questions. And if we didn't know
you didn't have the answers until they diagnosed the specific type.
So we didn't want her to be stressing and wondering what if, without us knowing what the answer was, what type of cancer it was, what the treatment was going to be, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And we conveyed that to the doctors as well when they came in. We don't want her to know yet.
Until you've got a plan. Yes. You know what it is. Here's the plan. This is what we're doing.
Yes.
Did you get, was it a bit overwhelming, the amount of people who were ringing you on the phone saying, what's going on? Did it get?
Yeah, it was. It was annoying. Well, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't annoying. It was, I like short stories, and I was constantly saying the same
same thing
over and over again. So I'm one of like 7 children, and then there's my son who's 30, but obviously at the time he wasn't 30, he was 25, 24, however old he was, and parents and aunties and uncles.
Yeah, all wanting to know, all wanting the info.
Everyone wanted everything all at once, and.
Excuse me real quick whilst I drop an ad on you, and then we'll be back to the show. Hey, East Coast Average listeners, if you're a cat lover searching for a t-shirt that combines creativity with style, check out graphicoasisco.com. There you'll find unique designs featuring whimsical cats, steampunk themes, and inspirational quotes. Each shirt there is made with vibrant colours, sharp lines, and you'll look fantastic while showcasing your personality. So go and visit graphicoasisco.com and use East Coast Averages at checkout to get 15% off your first order. Elevate your wardrobe with graphicoasisco.com. Let your shirt do the talking.
To jump forward very quickly, what we did was make a WhatsApp group so that the information was put on there, and then people could add stuff or ask questions on that, because that way it was just
that's actually not a bad idea, actually.
So that night, Wayne and I
the WhatsApp group, what do you call that one? Izzy's leukemia.
No.
You know what I mean?
What was it called?
Fucking hell.
Well, there was another one.
How do you name that group? Oh, yes, this is the daily fucking update of Izzy's Fight for Life. Fucking here we are. Well, welcome back today. We're still fighting.
There was 2 groups.
And we've had 3 vomits and 1 diarrhea.
We won't talk about the diarrhea. There was a lot of that. There was 2 groups, and then we merged
3 diarrheas and 1 vomit then.
There was lots of vomiting. Now you've made my training.
Sorry, you've merged the name of the let's go back. So we've arrived at Westmead. You're in the ED. You've got fucking stressed out because everyone's been sick in the waiting room.
Yep, we're in there.
I've got to get my kid out of here because she's going to get a cold and die.
Yep.
Because all you can see is she gets a cold, she's dead.
She's dead. Anything. Yep. She gets anything, she's dead.
That's it. Fucking, that's all you're thinking about.
Yep.
So you get in the isolation room, you go to the kids' oncology ward.
We didn't go there till later much later.
Yeah.
Because obviously you've got to get.
You know how you said to me on the East Coast Average I should go to the toilet before we start this podcast?
You need to go to the toilet.
I need to go to the toilet.
Oh, okay. We're just going to take a break now.
We're going to take a break. We're at the WhatsApp.
Niki J.
Can't. Okay, we're back from the quick bathroom break that Niki J needs to take every time he does an episode.
Yep.
It's a little bit embarrassing. There's people probably out there saying, mate, you're 52, go and get your prostate checked. Trust me, I'll get blood test done. It's not my prostate. It's I don't know what it is. I drink too much coffee. It's probably what it is.
You got the bladder of a pea.
Yeah, I know. So, all right. So, what's the WhatsApp called?
Oh, it was called Stink.
Stink.
That's a
Which
nickname.
is what Niki calls her daughter, Izzy Stink.
No, Little Stink.
Little Stink.
My sister's Big Stink.
So so let's fast forward because we've got the ED, we're up on the ward.
Yep.
You're in the oncology ward, and let's fast forward to when Izzy brought up Colonel Sanders' finest all over the bed. She said when she was first told, she recalls spewing Kentucky Fried Chicken everywhere.
So I don't remember that.
You don't recall that?
No, I remember the day that we told her. Would have been day 3.
So they're pretty quick on the diagnosis.
Yeah.
They all knew what it was going to be, but
Yep.
they just needed to get all the tick the boxes.
Tick them all.
Yeah.
And because we had that very serious discussion with all of the doctors, so we had the oncologist, I won't mention her name.
You don't have to mention their names, yep.
Then we had the team, and you have a social worker and everything. And
Yep.
we were in a room with them, and they were talking to us, and they told us what it was,
Yep.
or what they thought it was, and we were like, right, this is what's going to happen. You're not going to tell her.
Okay, yep.
And then when we do know what it is, you will not speak to us. You will speak to her, and we will be present.
Yep.
Because this is her. This is not us. This is her journey. We are there to support her.
And I guess that they would there'd be parents that would say, do not tell a child anything.
Yep.
And I guess that's whatever you're comfortable with. And that's probably got a lot to do with your fucking, I don't know, your upbringing and your fucking cultural history and your background and everything.
Yep.
Probably leads to that decision.
We just looked at it. It was obviously we were going to make decisions, but she had to be included in every single decision that was made because it affected her. It was her body.
Yeah.
Which, some people might go, well, it's a 12-year-old, she's got cancer.
Yeah, look, I think 12-year-olds are old enough to sort of understand. Yes. Most taught, some aren't, some, yeah.
And she was always going to be having treatment, but she needed to be informed.
Yeah.
And I know from my own nursing background that sometimes doctors speak to the parents and forget the patient.
So you had that big conversation with her?
Yep, and they were all on board with that.
Yep, and so you told Izzy you got leukemia. It's this type of leukemia.
And she did exactly what we knew she would do. She asked a million questions.
Yep. Did they have the answers?
Yes.
They had the answers there?
So they explained.
Did they try and cut that little meeting short, or they were happy to sit there for as long as Izzy needed to be?
Sat for as long as she needed to.
Yep.
And she had to undergo her first surgery.
I'm not saying because they don't want to talk to her. I'm just saying they're in a busy hospital.
Yeah.
And they're like thinking, I've got another patient down the hall.
And they are.
I've got to give bad news to them in a minute.
Absolutely busy, 100%. All good news.
Well, I remember when my dad got diagnosed going to mesothelioma. I remember watching the doctor walk down the hallway, and he'd just been in 5 rooms, and I saw him walk down the hallway, and his shoulders were like, I just thought, that bloke has just fucking given out.
Yes.
5 fucking bad news. You got cancer, you got lung cancer, you got lung cancer, you got asbestos cancer. Yeah. You know what I mean? You could just see his body language.
Where was the happy part of it?
He was just fucking walking down the hallway, and his shoulders were rolled over, and you could just see he's thinking, I thought, fucking hell, what a shit job that'd be.
And it is a shit job. But I know the first night at Westmead, Wayne and I went home. I think one of my sisters stayed with her that night. I can't remember which one.
Did you have to stay? Was there
No, you could go. Yeah, you didn't have.
You didn't have to stay every night with your child. Yeah, because people have other children home, don't they?
Yes, and
like
there were
newborns and
lots of parents on that ward that had lots of children.
Yeah.
I never saw one child without a parent there.
Yeah.
We had to tell Wayne's parents, and we needed to do that in person because his family needed to be told as well.
Yeah.
So that first night when we were home alone, that was a bad night. That was bad. There was like uncontrollable sobbing in the shower.
Yeah.
Privately for me, which that was my release. I needed to get all of that out, not to be strong for her, but because I needed her to know that we had a fight, but there was an end and we were going to get there. So she had her first surgery day 2, I think, or day 3, where she had a central line.
The central line put in.
Yeah, so her father and her brother was there with her, and Wayne went in with her. We were in before she was taken in, and then they were in there with her during the recovery. We've got lots of photos of those things.
She had that central line put in because pretty much once they diagnosed it, treatment starting the next day.
100%.
So it's chemotherapy.
Yes.
The first line.
10 full days of chemotherapy.
Yep.
And then that's when obviously she was told what it was and what was going to happen. And she was really sick for those first 10 days, like really sick.
Yeah, because I think Izzy was saying on the podcast that she didn't recall being that sick.
No, she doesn't. That's the trauma block.
Yeah, so she was actually... did you look at her and think, fuck, man, you look sick?
So it wasn't...
You know what I mean? Like you're looking at your daughter thinking, fuck, man.
So she was sick because of the leukemia. The chemo sickness didn't start till 14 days later.
Right, so, yeah.
So we knew that was going to kick in.
Did she bounce a bit between the chemo and when she got sick from it 14 days later? Did she get a bit, pick up a bit or?
She did. She was just constantly tired. And she had no appetite. She wasn't hungry, so she was losing weight. we knew that that they explained to her about her hair
would
falling
fall
out
out,
and
yep.
stuff. My older sister came in. I remember she came into the hospital, and we decided Isabel's hair was down to her backside, and we decided she knew she was going to lose her hair, and she wanted to dye her hair green.
Yep.
And it was like, do it. So my sister actually came in, and I hadn't spoken to my sister for a number of years, so it sort of brought us back together, which was good. And she washed Izzy's hair and
Which sister?
Melissa.
Oh, okay.
My older
Yep,
sister.
Yep.
So she came in and that brought us together.
It's funny how a tragedy will bring people together, eh? It's real.
Yeah.
It's a strange human trait that tragedy brings people together,
yes.
eh? Yeah.
So she washed her hair and spruced her all up, and then we cut her hair to her shoulders, and then we put a green rinse through her hair. And I've got some beautiful photos of her, with a green hair. I think the hardest thing was for me, and this is probably the time that she remembers telling me not to cry, and I reminded her of this. So I would get up early in the morning. The nursing staff told me, do not, under any circumstances, even attempt to give up smoking. Like, you'd feel bad. You go out for a cigarette, stinking of cigarette, you go into a fucking cancer ward.
Yeah.
The kids who are dying, and here you are sucking on a cancer stick. They said you can't do it. Don't even attempt to do it.
Don't even try to do it because you'd just be too cranky.
Yes. So I would get up early in the morning, go outside. I'd get my Starbucks coffee, which I will not drink to this day. So I would get my coffee. I would go outside into the filthy, dirty, and it wasn't a filthy, dirty smoking area, but it was a smoking area where you could sit, and I would drink my coffee, bawl my eyes out, pull my shit together.
Take a deep breath.
Take a big deep breath, pull my big girl's pants back up again, go inside, have a shower, wash away all of that, and then start again. So this one morning I went in there. We'd had the vomiting from the chemo and stuff, and she was on a heart monitor because her heart was playing up, so she was monitored for 48 hours. And I went in, and she was in the shower, and she was crying, and I was like, fuck, what's happened? And she said, Mum, my hair is on my pillow.
I was going to ask that. Is it literally just you wake up in the morning and there's fucking hair everywhere?
Yeah, so her hair had started to fall out, and she took complete control of that, and I was like, what do you want me to do? She said, Mum.
Shave it off.
You got to get rid of it.
Yep.
And I went, okay. So I walked out to one of the nurses.
Was there a lot of hair on the pillow?
No, there wasn't, but she,
in her mind,
and because it was green,
yeah.
on a white pillow.
White.
So we got scissors, we got hair clippers. The nurses were great. They grabbed everything. They cleared out one of the bathrooms that they would use. There was no hairdresser. There used to be, but there was no hairdresser that used to come in. So I took Izzy into this room, and there was a mirror, and she was sitting in the seat, and I started to cut away her hair, and then I had to shave it. And as I'm shaving it, she looked me in the eye through the mirror, and she said, don't you fucking cry.
Yeah, fucking hell. Was she crying?
She cried at the end when she took the hair clippers off me, and she shaved that last bit of hair off. And she looked, and the tears were rolling down her cheeks, and they were rolling down mine. Because hair to my hair and Izzy, it's a mane. It's your crown, it's your glory, it's your protection. And she'd
You've got pretty thick
hair.
You don't have wispy hair like some people have. You've got quite thick hair.
Yeah. And she had cut my hair.
Probably make rope out of it.
It could. And she had cut all my hair off as well. My hair was down to my ass.
So you went bald as well?
Yeah. I went.
Yeah, it wasn't a real good look for you, that baldness.
Well, bros.
Let's just say that
being
bald did not suit you at all, Niki. I'm not going there, but
no, I didn't like it.
I understand why you shaved your head off.
Yes.
But yeah, it was not.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a pretty look.
I think you needed to put a T-shirt on saying my daughter's got cancer. Fuck off.
No,
leave me alone.
Just own it.
So she's had her first chemo. So you wait 2 weeks, you get sick. How long after that did they decide whether that chemo was? Did they say it may respond to the first 10 days of chemo? Yeah.
So that was to. I can't even think of what the word is now. Put her into.
Kills everything off, and hopefully it kills everything, and hopefully the body starts to regrow it, and the new stuff that's being grown is not defected, I guess, for want of a better term.
And actually
and that's pretty basic fucking
the first dose of chemo that she had was actually put into her spine. So she after every chemo round, she would have a
she
lumbar
said she had
punch.
58 lumbar punches.
No, so she had
And now her friends are sucking tequila out of them at the uni bar.
She had 58 doses of chemo.
Oh, so she didn't have 58 fucking...
No.
Yeah, righto.
She had probably about 10
lumbar punctures.
Yep. And the first one, they actually put the chemo into her spinal fluid because it showed up that it wasn't there, but they needed to do it anyway just to protect her.
To make sure it didn't go in there.
Yep.
So how long after that did they say, this chemo didn't work, we're going again?
Straight away.
They knew straight away it didn't
Straight
work.
away after they did the lumbar punch.
So the 10 days, they had the 10 days of chemo.
Yep.
Then did a lumbar puncture.
Yep.
Didn't work, another 10 days.
Yep. And blood
Didn't work,
tests.
another 10 days.
Yeah, and her blood was being taken constantly, but that was all being taken through that central line. So she didn't have to have needles.
Yeah. So she had 5 rounds of chemo, so that's what, 50...
It was 58 doses
58, so that's what, I don't know, 3 months of being sick.
Yeah. So May was the diagnosis, September was the transplant.
Yep.
I'll just pull it this way.
Yeah, just pull that way.
Oh, and the other thing, which you forgot to mention, day 2 in the hospital at Westmead, so it was day 3 of diagnosis, we had to go to the fertility clinic to discuss.
That's right, yeah, to have her eggs harvested for future, yeah.
Yeah, so...
How do they do that? Harvest eggs?
IVF.
Is it an operation?
No, so it's...
We don't have to go into details if it's a personal procedure.
Well, it is personal. Well,
Yeah.
it's not for her. It didn't happen for her.
They didn't.
No, so we had to work out what it was that we wanted to do.
Okay, yeah.
Because obviously chemotherapy, and because she had already started having her periods, we knew that
it could stop her from being able to have children later on.
So we had that discussion. Here's this little 12-year-old girl. Who would have thought?
Yeah, you're not thinking about having babies then, are you?
And she always wanted babies though.
Yep.
So we knew that was something we needed to get onto. And we actually discussed that with the doctors in the beginning, that we've got to get onto that. So we couldn't do the IVF because she had to start the chemo, but we had to work out what we're going to do. So she had to have an injection.
So she was too sick to wait to do the IVF to get the eggs.
Yeah. So she would have an injection every month, and the needle was the size of a microchip needle, and that was put into her every month to protect her eggs from the chemotherapy.
That's some crazy shit the doctors are doing, eh?
Yes.
There's some crazy fucking research going on. And I guess if it was 1970, Izzy wouldn't be with us.
No, she wouldn't have been.
If it was 1950, not a chance. You wouldn't even have known. She would have just woke up one morning sick, and like you look back at 1900s, Izzy just would have been in bed.
Would have used leeches
got a fever and passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess it's a good thing, but they say that like they give you chemo, then they give you this other drug to protect your eggs, and then they give you this other drug. It's like the fucking old lady that swallowed the fly, put in the spider.
100%.
You know what I mean? But they know what they're doing.
Yeah, and you've got to have, and that's where my faith wasn't in religion. It was
in the science.
In the science.
Best practice.
Yes.
Evidence-based practice.
100%.
Yeah. So she's gone through the 50 odd things of chemo. Was there any point during that, like Izzy said, she never once thought she was going to die? Did you have any time during that time where the doctors pulled you aside and said, look, she's pretty sick, this could go badly? So
we knew, obviously, every day you'd wake up and, there's your 12-year-old daughter who's vomiting everywhere or shitting yourself.
There's nothing in your stomach. What do you bring? You're just gagging.
Yeah, there was a lot of bile.
Yeah.
A lot of bile. There's that whole, what if she dies?
Yeah.
That's always there, but that was pushed backwards because you had to think positive constantly. Like I made sure that I contacted the school. I needed the school to send in work for her because if she had to do her schoolwork, then there was future.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I was just about to say fucking schoolwork, but yeah, if
there was always a reason.
If you said, don't worry about doing your schoolwork, is because you fucking might not be here in 6 months. So you don't. That's not a space you want to be in.
No, and I didn't want her in that space. I needed her to have that positive outlook, and again, she was always positive. But what she wasn't doing, which was concerning, is she removes herself, which is really
Removed herself from.
she could literally physically or mentally remove herself from a situation. So she had gone, within.
Yep.
There was procedures that she would have done where
She doesn't remember having the procedure, or
No, she remembers the procedures, but her head she would remove. She could disassociate.
Yeah.
Which one of the nurses, when we explained it to her, was like, wow, I'd love to see that happen. And she actually witnessed it.
So she's like a bloody swami, mate.
Yeah.
Did you ever go in there and she was like floating with the legs crossed?
No.
The fucking lotus flower coming out of her fucking head or something?
No, it was a biopsy that she had to have done on her arm.
Yeah, so I know we're talking about a lot about Izzy, but I'd like to see what was it like when all the parents were in the meal room or the room without the kids. What was that like that the kids didn't see?
So,
was there some times where you laughed?
100%.
Was there any times where you just fucking
No, there was.
laughed and had a belly laugh and thought, fuck, that is exactly what I needed, man?
No, there was. Every night during the transplant, not so much during the lead up to it, okay, because your kids are really sick. During the transplant, they're still really sick, but there was times where there was a group of us. It was multicultural group. There was an Aussie, there was a Korean, a Filipino, an Italian, there was a dad, and there was an RN that was always out there on her meal break. So what we would do at about 9 o'clock at night when the kids were all asleep and they were all safe and the nurses knew that we would do this, that was our time, and we would go outside. We would get coffee and we would sit outside and we didn't discuss the kids.
Just spoke about other stuff.
We just talked about shit, absolute shit, or we'd play some music or just be stupid. When Izzy was doing her chemotherapy, we would wait until 10 o'clock at night and Izzy and I would walk the halls of the hospital because it's an art gallery.
Yeah, there's a lot of art on the walls.
Yeah, so we would do that when she was allowed out and we'd take a little pole and we'd walk around with the stuff. So
meet any odd people? A lot of odd people hanging around hospitals at night. Didn't come across any weirdos in the hall?
No, you'd have a lot of people that would of a morning.
Ghosts? Did you walk around those halls?
No, I didn't see any. And
so we've gone back to what you're doing with Izzy. I still want to know what's happening with the parents. Like there was some fun times. Was there any jealousy between the parents? Like, and I say this when I say jealousy, I don't want it to sound like jealousy. Was there obviously some parents, their children didn't make it. Was there something like? Would you notice like a mum just thinking, "Fuck, why is it me?" And you know what I mean? Like
no, so there may have not in not
you know
in
what I'm
my
trying to say? Like
not in my group.
Yeah.
Isabel spoke about survival guilt.
Yeah, she said, and that's fully understandable.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had guilt as the mother of the child that survived.
Yeah. Because you were quite friendly with her two friends that passed.
Yeah. So that was very hard. And it would be very hard. Initially when we went into the ward, every so often you'd hear this bell ring.
And that was you finish your treatment.
Yeah, and initially you hear that bell and you're like so happy because they've rung the bell, their journey has finished and they're cured or they're going to go into remission.
Yep.
So it was nice in the beginning, but then as the weeks continued,
you got sick of hearing that bell.
When I would get angry.
That you heard
like, why can't I ring that bell?
Yeah. And that's pretty tough, because and you're going to make me cry too, Niki, because that's tough because you're not angry at that person.
That's that fucking bell.
You're angry at the fucking situation that you're not ringing the bell yet.
No.
Yeah.
So that was it. Yeah, that, and I think all parents would go through that. But then you would also have the days where you would know that a child had passed.
Yeah, and I did ask Izzy about that.
Yeah, she had no idea.
And I guess I don't know. You listen to the podcast? Was I asking too many?
No, you weren't.
Questions like was I being too?
No.
Because I wanted to try and get the whole thing, what was happening. So did you see that? Like she said, people got taken to ICU and that sort of thing. Yeah,
there were a couple of kids that died on the ward.
Yep.
Which, that was really hard.
Yeah.
When you would have to walk past that
while the family are in there saying their goodbyes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And
which I'd assume could take anywhere from an hour to 8 hours, depending on what the family needed.
Yeah. And the little kids, the parents of the little kids, the kids are so happy. Like the little ones are always so happy. And you just look at them and you think, my God, you are so sick and yet you still smile.
Yeah.
And you walk past someone out on the street who's got the shits because their nail polish is the wrong fucking colour. Like, seriously.
Yeah, it does.
Seriously.
Look, it does make you think about stuff like that. And I get why people get frustrated at nail polish because I guess they don't really see that and you sort of forget about that.
Don't sweat the small things.
Yeah. So you did see people pass away on the ward. Was it a regular thing? Like it was?
There was 2 when we were in there during her.
Because I guess a lot of people who were going to pass away go to either a hospice or they go home.
Yeah.
So,
or they will go to ICU and they won't come back.
Yeah.
There was a lot of that stuff. A lot of babies. The babies used to break my heart.
Yep.
Especially when they would cry, and because you know that they're in pain, but there's nothing that you can do about that. And so Izzy sort of blocked a lot of that stuff out, and so she spoke about how we brought the social worker in.
Yeah, with the throwing the thing. Did that happen or was it?
No. So that actually did happen, and that was because she didn't react. She didn't react at all to anything. She was just.
So you're actually concerned that she'd become catatonic to the point where she was. If she gets through this thing, we can't.
Yeah.
If we're going to beat cancer, we don't want to then spend the next 10 years fighting a mental health illness she's picked up from what she's done.
Did she fully comprehend?
Yep.
And also I think because she was included in every decision. Did she actually understand what was happening?
Yeah, yep. She came in?
Yep. And so we were talking about it and Isabel would just sit there on a DS.
Yep.
Or her iPad and she'd watch or play games and stuff. And so we did the whole beanbag, that's the chair. If the chair's cancer, what do you want to do? And she sort of just casually just threw the thing at it. And I'm like, no, what's your reaction? How do you feel? What's happening inside? And that's when she grabbed it and threw it and she said, well, fuck cancer.
Going back to me game.
Yes.
Yep. And we also need to talk about when she went to your sister's wedding. Oh. Izzy said that basically because Izzy said a couple of things like she said, oh, if you don't do this, you're going to die.
Yeah, she was dismissive with some of that stuff and I just wanted to make it clear
the doctors weren't like that.
No, not at all.
And that's cool. If Izzy remembers that, she was telling her story. But that's the other reason I wanted to get you on to say that the doctors would have advised you, but 100%. They certainly would have said, if you walk out of this ward, you're dead. Fucking guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't happening.
So that wedding was very, very important. So that was Big Stink's wedding. So Big Stink is one of my younger sisters and she lived with us for many years. And Isabel actually thought that Sarah was her sister. So it was Big Stink and Little Stink.
Yep.
And they have a very, very close relationship.
So it meant Izzy needed to go to her wedding.
Yes. Yep. But we knew that she wasn't allowed to. So we managed to discuss with the doctors that she could go to the motel room, because it was an isolated air conditioning unit.
While she got ready for the wedding.
That's where we bent the rules.
So you went to the hotel room and snuck her to the wedding as well?
We never took her to the hotel room.
Okay.
Sarah's wedding was at an outdoor beach area.
So Izzy could stay away from people?
Yes.
There was,
she could wear a mask. She could have a massive hat on.
She could stand upwind.
Yes.
So that the smells and everything wasn't blowing past her.
Yes. So we had arranged for a friend's...
A bubble.
To
a clear tent for Izzy to stand in.
She was going to go to the wedding ceremony and then she was going straight back to the hospital. And it was arranged that a friend's daughter was going to be staying with Izzy for that night. Now, my sister Sarah, when she saw...
So Wayne and you stayed for the wedding?
We stayed for the wedding.
So Izzy went back with a friend.
Yeah, and went back to the hospital. When my sister saw Isabel at the wedding, obviously she was so happy but so frightened.
Yeah. Like, what are you doing here? Because you didn't tell them she was coming. Yeah.
No. And it wasn't an easy decision to make because the doctors made it perfectly clear that if she did get a cold, she could die from that.
Yep.
And that was the only time that Isabel ever cried. So she'd had a transplant, but we were allowed out for certain hours during the day. And Izzy and I would sit out in a garden and she sat in my lap after the doctor said, you're not going, sat in my lap like a little baby and said, I don't want to die, Mum. I don't want to die.
Yeah.
So that was the only time she ever really...
Thought she might. Not much.
And that was at the end.
Yeah.
You know, she'd had this massive fight the whole way. So, yeah, it wasn't blasé doctors.
Yeah. I thought when Izzy was telling me that, I thought, I'm not going to say, no, he's about it. But I couldn't see someone who works in paediatric oncology saying, if you fucking walk out of this ward, you're dead.
Yeah.
I thought they're not those.
There was one doctor that delivered some stuff to her that
could have done it a little bit better, or
100%. And I said that doctor was no longer to have anything to do with her. Their delivery and it was leading up to the BMT. They said that she had to have a nasal gastric tube. She didn't want that.
Yep.
She was adamant, I don't want it. I will take every tablet. I will drink everything that you want me to drink. I do not want a nasal gastric tube. And that was wholly and solely for the TPN. Because it was like 48 or some ridiculous amount of medications that she had to take if it was in tablet form.
Yep.
So this doctor, and I was sick on the day that this meeting happened, so I couldn't be at the hospital.
Yep.
So Wayne was with her. And this doctor had said to her, if you don't have that NG tube, you're going to die. Edit that bit out. That doctor's exact words.
What bit am I editing out?
Where I mentioned the gender.
Oh, okay, yeah, well, I thought I didn't hear a name.
Yep,
yeah, so no. a nondescript doctor actually said that.
Yeah, and so I rang her professor and voiced my concerns and said how disgusting that was that person said those words to her.
Yep.
That we have always been open and honest, and if she says she doesn't need it, she won't have it. But if she can't do it, she knows that she's got it.
So to some extent they could put a bloody... If they really wanted something, they could have put something in her stomach when she was out at some point.
I mean, she had the NG tube in the end.
Yeah.
Right? She decided, okay, I'll do it. The NG tube goes in. There she is, first night of the BMT where they spend the 5 days killing everything off. There she is the very first night, and she throws the NG tube up.
Oh.
Within an hour, it's gone.
Yep.
So then the nurses had to put it back in again. And she has a deviated septum on one side, so there was a lot of blood from that side.
So it's pretty traumatic trying to get it back in.
Very traumatic. Yep. So then they worked out, we've got to do the other side. So they put it in a second time, which I think she managed to keep it down 2 days. Threw it up again. And the doctor said she's got to have it back in again. And the nurses actually said, she doesn't want it. We're not doing it. You do it.
Did he give it a try?
No, she never had the NG tube again.
Him or her did it?
Yeah.
It wasn't the doctor that said you're going to die if you don't have it.
No, that doctor...
Didn't come back in?
I think we saw that doctor once in the hallway.
Did you say anything to him or her? Him or her?
Just do a bleep for those ones.
You know what, mate? Look, this is the thing with this kind of treatment. You don't know what's happening in the doctor's life.
Yes, that's right.
He might have just had a patient that he could have saved.
Them there.
Look, that doctor might have just had a patient who he said, if we can get an NG tube in, we can save your life. And he might have lost one of his child patients or two or three of them and he might have been looking at his going, fuck, don't be number 4, please.
Yep, could have been.
Just put the fucking tube in so I can do something because I couldn't help the other 2 people. And you don't know that.
Nope.
So you've got to be, whilst you can say, I don't want the doctor to come back in, you've got to be a bit mindful that these doctors in oncology have probably got shit happening that you don't see.
Yeah. It was all about the delivery with
that
her.
you need to work on.
Yeah, it was a bedside manner. It was just the bedside manner.
Yep.
So, no, I only ever saw that doctor once again, but that doctor...
And you're not going to get along with everybody.
No.
The simple fact is, it doesn't matter if you're in oncology or not, at some point you're going to either have a nurse, doctor or whatever that you don't get along with and you say, look, can I please not have anything to do with that person again? It's not because they're a bad person.
Nope.
It's not because they're assholes. It's because your personalities don't match or it's just something, I just don't get along with that person. Mm-hmm. So I'd prefer not to whilst I'm doing it. So she's had the bone marrow transplant from England. I still think the guy should have been flown over here from England to get the stuff taken out of him. I thought it got taken out of your bone. They actually drilled a hole in your bone and took marrow.
No, so that's how they used to do it.
So that's changed.
So it's stem cell.
Yeah.
So him and her are amazing. It was like they were twins, right?
Yep.
They took 21 million cells from her over a 2-day period because they couldn't get enough on the first day. So that's taken into this massive. They had the.
So they take those cells and then match it to someone else's cells.
No, so
they spin it.
They spill. So he was located on the the register, she had 2 matches. One was a 7 out of 10 and he was a 10 out of 10. You want to always go
the
high match.
Yep.
We had no one in the family that could match. They tested
Yep.
Wayne and I. Her brother was never
So
ever.
no one even came close?
No.
Yep.
Her brother was never going to be a match because they're half siblings.
Okay.
So he was never going to be a match.
Did they still test him or didn't bother?
No, they didn't
Okay,
bother.
so they knew that it wasn't. Yeah, okay. So he's come up 10 out of 10 in England.
He's come up at 10. We had to pick. Which one were we going to pick? Are we going to get the 10 out of 10 in England or are we going to do this one? Unfortunately, the one that was the 7 out of 10 had an infection that leaves...
Can you hear my cat in the background there? Meowing?
Yeah, that's why my eyes are itchy. No.
And you're allergic to cats.
There was a certain virus that this person had, which was still detected in the blood, which meant that if we took that match...
You might get that virus.
The risk of Isabel getting that virus was extremely high and the risk of her having to go to ICU increased.
Yep. And obviously the risk of passing away from the treatment increased.
So that was a nothing. That was off the table completely for that. And she had to see the fertility doctors again.
Was that local, the 7 out of 10?
Yes.
So isn't it good that they made a decision on the child's health, not on the costs of harvesting the bone marrow?
Yes.
So the nurse flew to England.
Yep, she would have
gone business class, which is...
So remember you asked Izzy that. I'm not...
She would have gone business class.
I'm going to assume that she would have.
Surely they would have flown to business class. She's flying back. You can't do that.
Well, she was only going for one.
You need a drink of water?
No, I've got water.
Okay.
She was only going for one. But that's where her donor and Izzy were like in alignment. It took 2 days to get it out of him as well.
Oh, right. So that's how much they matched. It took...
Yes, and because of the amount. So with the cells, they had to take, the 21, and we had to sign all this other paperwork like research.
Yep.
Could they use her cells for research? And that was another thing we discussed with Isabel. I sign this as your parent, but you have to agree to it. This is you. And we explained to her the benefits of what that could be in years to come. It could be life-saving.
Yeah.
So she was like, Mum, sign all that stuff. The fertility came back up again. We had to go. They came to us. So we had 3 options for that. A tissue sample, which ran the risk of taking the cancer with the tissue.
Tissue?
So take the actual details of that, I'm unsure, but it's a tissue sample that they take.
For fertility?
For fertility.
Okay, yep.
Yeah. Because when you have your transplant, your DNA is gone.
Yeah. I said that to Izzy. I thought that when she's like 30 as a nurse looking after in the ward and someone says, how do you know what it was like to get, she goes, look at my beard, man. Look at my ginger beard from England.
So we had that. That was gone because you're not about ready to take the risk of giving your child cancer.
Yeah.
The other one was to remove her eggs, put her through IVF, which is a 10-week cycle.
Which you didn't have 10 weeks.
Well, at that point, this was the discussion that we had.
So the first time, 10 weeks?
First time we didn't. That was, we're just going to give you this injection to protect your eggs. This time we've got what we thought was time. And the third was adoption, Isabel. You can adopt or you can have donated eggs.
Yep.
So we discussed it again with her and she said, Mum, let's do the IVF. Let's get my eggs out.
Yep.
Like, yep. So fertility doctor was informed of that. She then went and met with Isabel's bone marrow transplant team and unfortunately we did not have 10 weeks.
You didn't have 10 weeks, yep.
Izzy had to have her transplant straight away, otherwise she would die.
Yep.
Which then again, that's another kick in the... and she was okay. She accepted that.
Yep.
And then her donor had booked in a holiday.
Thanks for listening to the first episode, talking to Niki about a pretty shitty subject. There's no way of making it nice. Hopefully, what I'm hoping to do is to maybe inspire people that there is hope out there, and with fucking help and taking help, you can get through these shitty things that happen in life. I've had to make it into 2 episodes because I fucked up and deleted probably 30 or 40 minutes of recording. So I had to get Niki back 2 or 3 weeks after I recorded this section and a little bit of the next section. And in that time, unfortunately, my very close friend Sharon passed away from brain cancer and we had to travel to attend her funeral. So, normally I would tell you to ask you to buy one of my hats, but I'm not going to ask that today. What I'm asking you to do, if you want to make a donation to a cancer charity of choice, email me at info@eastcoastaverages.com, the receipt. And if you donate more than $50, the first, I have to count the hats. I think I've got 10 hats left in there. The first 10 people that email me a receipt to show that they've donated to the cancer charity of their choice, I'll send you a fucking hat for free. Really appreciate if you get these subjects, man, and I feel bad for asking, but if you don't mind subscribing and pressing like, because it fucking helps people listen to the new podcast. And yeah, I feel pretty bad asking that after a pretty heavy-duty episode talking about some pretty heavy-duty, shitty stuff that happens in the world. But it happens. Hopefully you get a bit of inspiration from listening to Niki's story. If you haven't already listened to Izzy, it's episode 17. Have a listen to that. And the second episode will drop a couple of hours after this one. So yeah, hope you find something in the stories that I'm trying to tell.